Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to part 2 of fixing the leak in my B8 Avant sunroof. And I've taken all the interior out, and the video where I show all of that, I'll link it above. But in this video, we're going to look at what I'm going to do just to fault find where the leak is. I've already had a bit of a look, and one thing I did notice is on this sunroof on the side here, where it is leaking, it was actually clogged at the top. So right at the top, it seemed to be clogged, and further down it was fine. And when I traced it up from the bottom, it was fine. But right in the top, when I opened it and I popped the actual thing off, there was water that just dribbled out. So there was water sitting in the top of it. So I've managed to clear that out, and I'll show you how I did that. But now I want to go around and I want to find out and make sure that there's no other leaks. So let's get into it. Here's the rear drain here. And what I did is when I pulled this off, and I would say I just have a towel ready as well. When I pulled this off like this, it's still pretty tight, so you've got to pull it. Then water kind of leaked back out of there. So I felt down in there and it was a little bit, muddy down there. There's like, bits of mud and grime and stuff. So all I did was I just poured water down and I saw that it came out the bottom, and then I blew into it. So I just kind of blew down through it like that. And yeah, I could feel it was blocked in the beginning, and then afterwards it was good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to silicone around this, around the outside, and silicone around this, and also you just want to check that it's all sealed around this side as well, because sometimes that seal can break. But mine looks good around that seal, still quite well sealed. So I'm just going to seal on the inside of here and then silicone it to this, because it just seems like it's not really on tight enough there. So potential for it to leak back out. So I'm going to seal it up there, make sure that never comes off. And yeah, let's do that.
Before I sealed up the rear drain, I thought it best to just plug them with some clay bar just to see if the frame would actually hold water. So that's what you can see me doing here now. Just putting some putty in there, and I just used clay bar because that's what I had available. But basically plugging the hole, and then I'm going to go around to the top and then check the integrity of the frame. And prior to testing with water, I'm just going to clean out the front ones, make sure that I can blow through those. So here I'm just basically checking that there's no debris inside, making sure I can blow through them. And I tip a little bit of water down as well, but I don't show that on camera, just to make sure that water runs out. Now, once I know they're good to go, I can plug up the front drain and test that the frame holds water, so we know that's not our problem. So here I am at the front drain on the passenger side, and I'm just plugging that drain hole that you can see there, and basically getting the whole thing ready that I can fill up with water. And yeah, I go on to explain the reason why I'm doing this.
So this is a common area here that leaks through the actual frame on these sunroofs. So I'm just going to putty up there, and then I'm going to fill all this with water, fill it all up, and check that it's not leaking.
So here I am on the other side, just filling up the last hole with clay bar, and then I can go around and pour water down and test.
So I just got some water in here, and I'm going to go pour it in.
So here you can see I'm literally just pouring water straight down into the channel, and I go a little bit overboard here, and you'll see in a minute I spill some water into the cabin. But the design is such that if the drains are blocked, then that's what's going to happen every time. And I'll explain that a little bit in a sec. But yeah, I'm just basically filling it up, and then once it is full, yeah, you can see there water going down in. Basically that's enough now to test whether this frame is going to leak or not. So just wipe up the little bit of water. And when you think about it, the hood lining is normally in place here, so the water wouldn't necessarily leak down like it did onto the seat. It'd actually leak into the head lining and either go forward into the front or backwards down to the back of the car somewhere. So yeah, I'm just having a look here and I'm literally gobsmacked at the design of this, that it so easily can leak up and over the top. And I do go on to explain why I think that is from my perspective as an ex-engineer and where the design kind of has gone wrong. But my kids are in the background as well, having loads of fun. So you'll hear them playing as well.
Okay, so I'll just show you now. The water is sitting in there. It's up to the top of this putty, I don't know if you can see. And there's no leaks. It's not leaking through here at all. It's not leaking down through here. So it's all, seems to be all watertight. There is a gap here. There's a hole right there, right through. So if the water does get up over this little lip here, then it ends up, I don't know if you can see that, maybe you can see it better like that. So if the water manages to get beyond this little lip, it goes straight over and leaks down into the hood liner, down through this spring area. But there's enough lip here, should be enough lip here for it to travel down and into the drain hole. So I'm going to unblock now the drain holes and let the front drain back out. And I heard that drain out onto the front. There it is there. All drained out properly. And now I'm going to go try to the other side, do the same on the other side. So this is now on the other side. So again, there's no water leaking down there. That all looks good. Sitting in there. So now I'm going to remove the front block and make sure the water's running out the front down to front quarter of the car. Yep, it's working. All right, so now I've put water around the whole rim at the front here at least and confirmed that there's no leaks in the frame, and that all seems to be working as it's supposed to be.
So happy to report the front drains are good to go, so we can move on to figuring out if the rear ones are going to drain.
All right, so now I've got everything set up, and I'm basically wanting now to test the rear ones, that they're going to run out to the back here. So I know there's no blockage. I'm not prepared to put it all back together yet without testing that. So I'm going to jack the front of the car up to tilt it backwards, and then I'm going to pour water in and watch it run out the back and down the sides. And once I know it's drained on both sides, then I'm pretty sure that that's the issue, and I can put everything back in. Other side. Testing that rear drain. And the water's draining away, no problems. And just taking one last look, and all looks good on that side. And all looks good on that side. So I'm just going to use some silicone sealer. It's just a Sally's No More Gaps. A little dab like that is enough. Solid bead all the way around. And then pop it straight back on. Like that, that's it. That's it. So that one's done. Now I'm going to check and do the rest.
So onto the other side, and I'm just basically going to clean up and do exactly the same thing as I did. So I'm not going to show that on camera, but I just sealed all 4 of them up and then moved on to putting everything back together.
All right, so everything seems to be draining really well, so that's good. The 2 rear drains are working. So now I'm going to refit everything. So first thing is I'm going to take off all these clips that go around here, and then I'm going to refit those back onto the head lining, because I think it's easier to push them in this way when they're sitting on the head lining. So I'm going to go and remove all of those and then refit them. Okay, that's all of them. So just got to clip them all back in to place, and some of them might be fallen over, so you got to lift them all up and clip them back in. So they just should sit flat like that. So this one here is kind of bent or like on the wrong way, so you got to pull it off, and they get really stuck, but you got to pull it off and make sure it sits flat like these ones. So like this one here, it's got to sit it flat like this, that, and then just push it down just like that. This one is bent, so just bend it back with the big tool, just like that. And slot it back in correctly. Yep. That's it. Now it's got one more clip that did drop down somewhere when I took it down, so I've got to find that one.
So here comes kind of the moment that I'd been dreading, probably the moment you've all been waiting for, getting this back in, and there just isn't enough room to do this easily, even through the hatch diagonally like this. It is precarious, and so I just took my time. I'm going to show you one whole clip here with just one small cut where I zoom in a little bit, but pretty much show you the whole thing from start to finish. And yeah, I don't know if I did it well or not, but I managed to do it with only feeling a couple of little creases and tweaks to the actual board. And once it is back in, everything looks really good, and there's no additional damage or hood lining separated in any other areas than there was prior to me taking it out. So it all worked out really well in the end, but certainly I was doing a lot of huffing and puffing trying to figure out why they didn't make this easier. But here we go. Enjoy. And my biggest piece of advice here is just to not force anything to happen. Just do it precariously, slowly. It has to rub across the edges of the seal as it goes in, so just be careful and just take your time. And in hindsight, it would have been nice to have the front seats lowered a little bit, but I was able to get it up easily over the front seats, as you'll see in a moment. And yeah, it basically meant that I could actually put it up in place and then get in the car and get underneath it. So it actually didn't work out too badly. You can fit it in almost all the way before you have to put it up over the top of the seats. So it worked out fine in the end. This bit here is a little bit tricky because you do have to bend the actual edges to get it past this little bit, and I'll just be really gentle and really careful. They do bend down without cracking, so that's fine to kind of just bend them as you manipulate it to push it in, and that was the only area that I kind of had to bend it to get it to go in. Once I got it to this point, it was really straightforward because you're inside that seal, which is the kind of smallest part it has to fit through. So now it's just a matter of maneuvering it into position, and yeah, I was feeling a lot better.
Well, as you can see by that, it was really ugly getting it back in. I did put a small crease on one of the edges, but I'm sure once it all goes in, it will be fine, but it's just not pretty getting it back in, especially with the old foam on it. So yeah, just be aware that it's really tricky to get it back in. It's not the right, it's just way too small, the opening. But anyway, it's back in now, and I'm going to start to put it all back together.
So in hindsight, starting here wasn't the best idea because the screw is kind of difficult to get in without the rest of the other components in, and the headlining not sort of up and clipped into the sunroof rim. So I do start here so I can actually utilize the sunroof if I need to open and close it. So you'll see me put this in first and then move on to other areas. Moving straight to trying to clip this in wasn't really the best idea either. I only really got one or two of the clips to pop, and the rest were just sitting there. not really in place. So I actually tried this a little bit, and then I moved on to putting in the other components first to get the headlining kind of up in place before coming back to clip all these in properly. And if I was doing this again, I'd probably start here with these 4 brackets that kind of bolt in, because that gets everything up in place toward the back. Then after that, fitting the grab handles, which you'll see me go on to do as a next step. And I'm just holding on this shot a little longer just to show I'm not in a hurry here. I'm not trying to push it too hard either. I'm being really gentle, and I've got clean hands because I'm fingering the whole board here. And yeah, I just don't want to damage it too much. So I'm being really gentle and really careful to get everything in place before I try and start fitting this bracket. So here I'm just nipping them up before moving on to the other side, and there's a lot of fiddling around to get these in place. There's also 2 that go onto the passenger side and 2 on the driver's side, or 2 on the left and 2 on the right, and they do only go in one way. So I explain that a little bit more in the next clip.
Now on these, I tried all different ways to put these in. Note that they go one way, so one side is like that. The other side, there's 2 for passenger, 2 for driver, or 2 for left, 2 for right. And I tried all different ways. I tried to put it in first and then put it through. I tried to put the bolt in and put it in all together. You can see me fussing around with it. There is also a bit of felt on this side that you've got to get right as well. It's got to sit up right. And then there's this little tab here that sits over the top of the airbag thing. So, but again, putting that in the right way, no, like that. Yeah, putting it in like that first, then getting the bolt and putting the bolt through. Use the other finger kind of to lift it up and just put it through to find the hole. There we go. Got it. So try not to finger the board because it's just literally got, you know, little dints and marks all over it. Now it's been out, but it is what it is, you know. It's never going to be the same again once you take it out. That's the truth. So then just nip those up. And that's it.
So back to the front here, where I'm just going to put in this last screw, and it looks just like this. And yeah, I tried to do this at the start, but it wasn't easy to do. Now that the headlining is more in place, it goes in really easily.
That's it.
Now moving on to these grab handles, you just really have to push these home nice and hard to get them in place. there's a little cap that goes on, so you kind of set it in place, and then you'll see you have to give it a really good push to get it properly in. So moving on to the sun visors, and you've got to fish out the little wire here so that when you open the mirror and slide it open, the courtesy light comes on. It took me a little while to fish it out, but once I got it, I was able to plug the visor back in and get the visor back into place. So one thing I did actually forget to plug in here is the courtesy mirror lights. So I actually came back later after everything was done and I was testing everything and realized I hadn't plugged them in. But fortunately, you can just take the light out, fish for the wire inside and plug those in. So just remember, before you go to this step of putting the visor on, just reach your hand up over the top and plug in those courtesy lights. But anyway, let's continue on with getting the visors back in place.
All right, here you've got a seal and you've got the edge of the trim. I haven't put this in yet, so I'm just going to basically lift up the seal and kind of gently put the trim under the seal. And what that's doing is just kind of resetting where this should sit under the seal, and it's covering that line as well. You've got to kind of persuade it and then just push it so it just sits nicely on the edge of the seal. Just go around and finish that on all the areas that have a seal around them. So this is kind of like the last step before we do A, B and C pillars. You kind of want to go around the top here and just press this up against there. Now it's really good to have clean hands for this because you're going to be touching, you know, the hood lining here. And it's okay with a new hood lining. With an old one, just be really careful. Make sure to try and use two hands. Don't just put single pressure points on it. And you're just really just pushing that down into the actual board. So you're just pushing it down into the board and letting those clips just grab again. So go all the way around to do that, to make sure that line is nice and flush with the headliner. Starting to get a little bit excited now because I'm very close to being done with this. So I'm going to now go and do from the A pillars first, and then back, I'll work my way back to the B pillars and C pillars and then the boot. So, well, nearly there. What a journey. It's a long process, but we're going good. So, yep, let's get the A pillars back on. tied in there. There's that central clip that's got to go in the middle here. A couple of clips that got to go in. You see, you got to get it in nice and tight there first, and then that middle clip, first clip. I'll let you push that first clip in. That's it. And just get that edge in the right spot there too. Then it should fall in, and then you can push in central clip. And you'll feel it kind of pop in place, and then that's it. All right, put one screw back in. That's it. And in. So put this piece back in now, and it's just got these side pieces and a clip behind here which goes in the bottom. So clip goes in there, and then there's a little piece that slots in to that bit there, so just pop that back in. You might have to move this seal out of the way to kind of get it to pop in. It's just pushing this back, it's not actually clipping in, so that's an issue. Okay, there we go. Okay, I think it finally did clip in. Yeah, it's got it. All right, good. Happy days. Okay, cool. So now you can reinstall this side piece. This one feels a bit strange compared to the other one, but that's it, that's in. And then, okay, we're going to line up now. The rest of the stuff go in there. That should all line up there. And then you're going to push that in.
So here's where I start really wrestling with this A-pillar, and I don't know why it just didn't go in, but my advice would be, if it doesn't sort of go in and click and clip in properly the first time, just pull it out, have a look where the clips are and try and line them up by eye, because that's what I ended up doing and got it in easily once I did that.
There we go. All right, we can reassemble these B pillars now. This up inside, slides up. Nice push, it's up, and then push in on one side, and there we go, that's better. And that's that.
An important step here is to actually make sure that the mechanism for adjustment is lined up, because I popped this back in once and the mechanism wasn't in place. So here I am just testing the mechanism, making sure it's all good to go.
So C-pillar, it's got the clips here. You've got to push it up underneath there. So sit it in place like that. Press it up into the slot like that. Got to go up underneath and then push it down. Got to get it in the correct spot, and then it just pops in place like that over the top of this side piece as well. And you can lift the seal over it. And it's got this one little piece that goes in, that piece first. And then push the top piece in on top. I don't know why it's not a screw, but it seems to hold pretty well. There is a bit more of a gap along the window there, but it is in place. Okay, next one is going to be the D pillar. So this piece kind of goes in this area here, fits back in. So I'm just going to put that back into position, and you have to plug in the audio as well. So plug in the audio.
If you're still watching, then we are on the home stretch, and it's good news because this is a massive job. But getting these D pillars in is an important next step before we can move on to putting in all the boot interior pieces, and we're very close now to finishing. So stay tuned just a little longer to see it all come together.
You just lift this seal over the top. And then push it up further and clip it in. One more screw up in here. Okay, so that's it, the D pillar's in. Now we're going to fit this piece here, which is like that little thing that the seatbelt sits over. So I have to fit that next. And the belt's got to go over, sit in that. Now we can put this trim here on. This piece has to kind of slot in the back there, and I would say keep the seats down for this. And it's got to slot in here as well and sit over the top of all of this, as well as clip in under this trim here. So it's a little bit tricky to get in place, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it'll slot in pretty easily. got to pop in here and here as well, and then sort of sit in there. I'm going to go around here, bring it over the top of this, sit over the top, that. Slots in under here as well. Clips in there. And then there's one more pop over here. Really feels like it's not very well fitting around this area here, but once you get it in, you'll feel it all clip and pop, and then you know it's sitting right. I'm just going to clip in that, and then that's it. Now we're just going to get this seal, pop this seal in, sits behind the seal. Go, last clip, then we'll put these in now. I did forget to connect this, so you can still get access to it at the back here behind. That's it. So I'm just going to cover this up now with the trim piece. And that's it. Now the last thing is the passenger side or right side airbag piece has to go in as a final step.
This part feels a little awkward because you kind of got to get your hands down and move the seat out of the way in order to push the bracket that kind of holds this piece in down into its position. So I fussed around a little bit here, but yeah, you just got to be gentle, make sure you don't tear the seat on the inside, and it'll go in eventually, and then you can tighten up the bolt that goes in there. And I think I had the seat down for this part, and then I moved it up and then down again, and then here it is up again. So I'm not sure what's best, but I think having it down to start with and then moving it up to tighten it worked well for me in the end.
All right, so now that's done. All of that's ready to go. We can move into the back, just put in the final things in the back, the tray for the tools, and the spare wheel and everything like that. Connect back to power and check that it's all running and everything's operational.
And I'm starting to get really excited because this is literally like one of the last trim pieces that's got to go in, apart from the spare tyre and the cover and everything like that. But getting super close now, and I can't wait to get this done and finished. All right, well now it's just a matter of reconnecting the battery and checking for any fault codes. I did have the side airbags in the passenger seats disconnected while I had the battery connected to operate the sunroof, open and closed. So I'll need to check those and clear those codes before I'm completely done. But super excited now, almost there. Kind of fiddled and fussed around with this quite a bit because it didn't have a real positive feel to going into place. It didn't really click or pop into place like I thought it would, but it's a different setup to the other ones where they kind of push in on those type of pop clips. This one's more, it slots into these kind of slots. So I just went with it and it's been fine since. So yeah, no issues at all. But yeah, it was just funny that it didn't really feel that positive going into place, but it's all good and ready to go. This was actually a pretty surreal moment when I realized that I'd actually done this whole job from start to finish, and hopefully we've fixed the leak as well. I was just super grateful on reflection, and I think this shot shows it. So here I am just testing out the functionality of the sunroof before I jump into the Carista app to clear any airbag fault codes.
The final step is starting the car and checking for the airbag light, because I did disconnect the airbags while the battery was connected. Start it up and check for the airbag light. And as you can see, the airbag light is on.
So Carista is my OBD2 reader. So I plug that in, jump into the app, and then I can check on the fault codes. And the two that you'll see that come up are both related to the airbags that I had disconnected for this job. So just make sure, if you don't want to have to reset the codes, you've got to keep the battery off. So you have to reconnect those airbags if you want to operate the sunroof. If you can remember to do that, then you'll be fine and you won't need an OBD2 reader to complete this job. But I was just in a rush, and so I just connected the battery just to make it happen. Anyway, as you can see now, I start the car after clearing the codes, and we have no more airbag light. So that's it. Job done, and I'm super glad this one's done and dusted. Thanks so much for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.